Hi, today I'd like to show you how to make a podcast. The easiest way to make a podcast is through a program called Audacity. And I have explored some other ways to create podcasts through some other programs, but Audacity seems to be the one that is most widely used and trusted. It also has a lot more features on it than some other programs, but there are some Google extensions that you might want to consider. As long as any kind of recording can make an MP3 or an MP4, you should be good to create a podcast. So if you want to create a podcast, I would go to Audacity, and you can download Audacity for free. You just go to their website. I Googled Audacity and found that there's a downloadable application right here, and you can download it right to your desktop for future use. You can do it on a Mac or on Windows. So I already have it downloaded, so I want to show you what Audacity looks like after you go through the downloading process. It's very simple. If I want to record something that I'm talking about, I simply just hit record and it records my voice. As a matter of fact, right now it's recording my voice. If I want to pause and say something in a minute or cough or walk away, I can pause and come back. So if I want to record again, I can just simply hit pause and it will continue recording. So I'm going to hit pause for a second. If I want to end there, and that is the end of my podcast of what I want to say, maybe I'm delivering some sort of instruction, I'm giving a lecture, maybe I'm a student and I'm done saying what I have to say. For instance, my third graders, they give retells of stories, so maybe they want to take a pause, or maybe they're done, they just simply just hit stop. And that stops everything, and you can see that I no longer have a moving cursor. And you can see that I am not recording my voice either. So when I go to do a podcast, I simply just record my voice. That is very simple to do. If I want to listen to it again, I can move my cursor back all the way to the start where it says here skip to start, or I could skip to the end. So if I want to move my cursor here to the end, I can. If I want to move it somewhere in the middle and listen to it from the middle, I also can. But for right now, I want to listen to what I wrote or what I said. So I simply just hit play, and there's a playback feature. And you can see where my levels are. If it gets too high, it might be distorted, and so forth. So that's the basics of how to create a podcast, but there are other features on here that might be useful to you. You can make a stereo track. If you wanted to do left or right centered channels, you could simply just take away and do a mono track. You can mute parts of it. I could also underlay. For one of my projects that I did with my kids, I had the students basically save a file, and I had them record different voices all in the same file. So this is just one chunk of what I did as a sample, but I can also hit record again, and what it will do is it will create another recording underneath of the one that I just did. So I'm going to stop that one there, and I can simply go up to the top and notice that now that I have two audio tracks. This is audio track, and this is also an audio track. So I can choose to listen to either one. I can mute one if I want. I can do solo on one if I want. So there are some editing features on this as well. And one of the editing features you can do is just simply go to edit. You can undo a record. You can move around audios. You can also do a simple copy and paste. It works very much like Microsoft Word or any other Word program that you've used before, only instead you're using audio. So you could just simply, if I wanted to cut this section of what I said the second time around, I could go to it, edit, I could copy it. If I wanted to, I could cut it. These tools are also available up here if you want to cut and edit. I can draw in here. I can do all different kinds of time shift tools and so forth. But I could just simply copy it, and I can move it up here to my first thing, and I can paste what I said before. So now I have one continuous long track, and if I want to get rid of this second track, I can. So now it's all in one thing, and if I want to listen to it, I can simply, on this little template, listen to all of it. So that's just some simple tools of it. You can adjust your microphone and the volume if you'd like to. Over here are your cut and paste tools as far as the icons are concerned, but I like to use these ones up here. It gives me a more general list of things that I can do. If I wanted to add any kind of effects, one of the projects that I did, some of my students were chosen to play the parts of a boy when they were a girl. So they wanted to drop the tone of the voice to make it sound like they were a boy. So they can go to effect, and you can do all different kinds of effects. You can have a reverb effect, you can do a reverse effect, you could do a wah-wah effect. So it's a little bit like GarageBand if you're familiar with that. That's also another tool you could use. You can change the pitch or change the speed, and if you could change the tone, here it's in the key of F right now, and I could change the speed of it, so I could lower it or raise it if I wanted to make it sound like a chipmunk. This is a good example of to show the kids tools to use the first time you ever use Audacity. I've always used Audacity first with my children just to show them, hey, there's some really cool stuff and some fun things you can do. Kind of get it out of their system and then go on to make the podcast, probably a day or two later. Only because you don't want them messing around with trying to find out, oh, hey, I can sound like a chipmunk, when really you want them to be at the task at hand. So just a kind of a classroom management snafu that I've run into over the years. So you can do that. You can also, if you'd like to, you can add new tracks. You can simply just add a new track by hitting record. So when you're finished, if you would like to publish your podcast, very simply, all you have to do is go to export. And if I want to export this file, I can export it in many different ways. I like to export it as an MP3 or an MP4. They're very easy to embed to websites, or for here I've imported it to this or exported it to this wiki as an MP3. So you can save it as many different files. You can save it as an AC3 file. You can also save it as a WMA file or a WAV file. But all of these different kinds of audio files are applicable. Something else too that is a nice feature of this is, well, let me go back. I wanted to show you how to export. If you can export as an MP3 file, I do want to name it first, so I can call it test1, and then I can hit save. And then if you want to give it an artist name, track, title, genre, and that sort of thing, you can. And then you hit OK, and it simply is now exported as that track, depending on where you wanted it to go. So I wanted to make sure that you also understood that you can import things as well. And you can also import other audio files if you'd like to. So for instance, I was using for a podcast project that I'd done in the past, I had the theme from Jaws, and I wanted to use a quick 10-second snippet of that so that I wasn't infringing on any copyright laws. And as you can see, all of this is information that I have when I have it actually saved on my hard drive. So what I can do then is I can simply copy this, open it. Oh, I guess it's not on there. But if I have something that's on there, I can import audio. And I think I have to have that from my iTunes. But you could simply copy any music that you want to and underlay it into this, which is what I did for the one project that you'll see later on in my wiki. So there's also a help if you need to go for any kind of help or audio device information. So pretty simple, the basics. Once again, the more you explore with it, the more you play with it, the better you can be. But simply, if you can run an old school tape player, you can certainly make yourself a podcast through Audacity by just hitting the record button, stop, pause, and rewind. It's very easy to do. Just remember to go to export and export it as either an MP3 or any other kind of file that you think will be something that you can embed into a web page or a wiki, and for others to listen to or download. So that's my introduction on how to create a very simple podcast.